Hi everyone, this is Herb Kim, the founder and director of Thinking Digital. I'm joined today by an old friend of mine, as well as an old friend to the conference, Christian Payne, aka Documentarian, as some of you will know him on the various social webs out there. So first of all, thank you for joining us, Christian. Great to see you.
Absolute pleasure. Again, you know I'm addicted.
We'll get to that topic a little bit later. So, I mean, one of the things that, I mean, because you have, had about, I think, I think it's probably your eighth Thinking Digital, and you've been involved both on stage as a speaker as well as also just as a delegate and in helping us in various different ways. Although I think this time you're here to facilitate a workshop.
Workshops, yeah.
What's your workshop on?
It's live streaming, very popular at the moment, as everybody, in some ways, many years after live streaming was enabled on a mobile phone, now everybody's kind of running with it.
Yeah, it must be frustrating for like people in podcasting who've been doing podcasting for years, and now suddenly in the last 2 years, everyone's trying to do podcasting.
Yeah, I think they're excited by it though, more than frustrated. I think when you realise that your platform has become, brought to the forefront, where suddenly big revenue is being made by organisations getting really involved, I think it gives you a new enthusiasm.
Interesting. Okay. Well, actually, let's dive straight into one of the questions I have for a little bit later, which is, this tension between wanting to be creative, wanting to be journalistic in your approach in terms of, reporting facts. I know that those are out of fashion these days, but plus having to marry that with commercial reality. So, I mean, we were talking about a number of podcasts, and a lot of them now have got, the likes of Ford and Procter and Gamble, and some of the biggest and most sophisticated advertisers in the world backing them now. In your experience with working with some of these people, are they currently in a kind of sort of an early honeymoon period where, because the form is new, they're probably, the advertiser probably say, well, just you tell us what to do. We'll give you some money. We want to talk about this car or whatever it might be, or is it already you can see the kind of that traditional tension between content and commerce coming to the fore in podcasting?
I think it's a conglomeration of lots of things. A lot of the big players, when it comes to advertising, are a little bit unsure of where they should be putting their money, and they're seeing podcasters as really focusing on the story in such a way it might be serialized over 10 episodes, and as a result the listener is kept by those headphones, plugged straight into the narrative. And not everybody's going to take their phone out and skip forward the 30 seconds. So there's a big retention there, I think.
Well, there's also, sticking with podcasting for a moment, that oftentimes the podcast host will be directly involved in the ads, where they're and giving it at least the sheen of authenticity. Although in some cases you do actually feel like they are actually involved with the advertiser in some way.
I think is the best way to do it. I've heard some people be brutally honest about the fact that they're being paid by this company. They don't even know what product it is. Let's speculate, let's play around this. And before you know it, the company's been mentioned 20 times. People have gone to Google them to find out what's going on. It's a win-win. They've retained their authenticity and the sponsor gets a look in.
Cool. Well, long may it last. What are folks doing with live streaming? Obviously, this will appear on a live stream, and we've been live streaming the conference for years, sort of thing. But we've noticed as well. I remember the early years of live streaming, not just our conference, but even I'm involved in TED, and the audiences would be oftentimes you would see the counter to be like 8 people on this otherwise globally famous conference kind of thing. And an example for Thinking Digital, last year we had over 3,000 unique viewers watching an average of 59 minutes, which we were just flabbergasted by.
You've got the hashtag to thank a lot for that. I think that the moment somebody sees in the timeline that the hashtag is taking off, everybody, and the community is really good around Thinking Digital, where they will state, check out the live stream here, because they don't want their friends to miss out on the experience they're having. What, for me, the most valuable part of a live stream is creating that shared experience no matter where you are in the world. We have a shared experience like we have done for many years here. And that shared experience in the theatre is very much a theatre experience, where you've got the laughter, you've got the emotion, you've got the learning happening right there. It's so easy for you just to go, oh, you've got to check this out. So we can talk about this later. And I think that plays a big part into it. For me, the shared experience is key. It's not just about breaking news anymore. to the extent that a lot of protesters and as the world is, facing a lot of upheaval at the moment, are taking the devices out to be kind of a digital alibi, a witness to what is going on. And we've seen, people have their phones knocked out of their hands by the police before they're arrested, and it's all still running. It's fascinating.
Yeah, and you're seeing, airline employees and the police and others, when they see the phone come out, they start to freak out.
Yeah.
And so it's, and understandably why, given some of the viral videos we've seen.
The whole ubiquitous aspect of this always on, everybody documenting everybody else, has got a very dark side, and yet it's kind of interesting to see how it can save lives in some cases.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's an interesting thing, because obviously, we've discussed in the past issues around privacy, right? And I know there's some who would almost say, to some extent, there is no privacy, and by actually knowing that everything we do has the potential of being public, might actually be a healthy thing, right? Any thoughts around this?
Well, we've seen a huge evolution in behavior, in particularly my own behavior when the origins of the social web, I was documentally. I wasn't Christian Payne.
Yes.
I got kicked off for being documentally on Facebook and not using my real name.
Right.
And gone are those days, very much gone are those days, where we realize now that due to the metadata and the amount of information we are being encouraged and enticed to pump into the feeds, everything's out there. I dread to think, what the forensic data technicians could extract from just the average person nowadays, outside of the corporate platforms, which is their sole job, to get you to just deliver everything so that you can be sold to better or worse.
Interesting. So, you touched on the social webs and a little bit. What actually brought, because you did not start in technology, or obviously not in social media because it didn't exist when you, but tell us a little bit about your background and how you got into this.
My introduction to the forums and social came from audio and podcasting, because I wanted to do something alongside being a newspaper photographer. I realized that going out, my hands were very much tied, because I was delivering a photograph and a picture caption into sub-editors and editors. But if I could give them some audio as well, there might be a chance for me to get another story if they could get engaged by this. I wasn't allowed to write long picture captions. I wasn't allowed to write stories.
Yeah.
Then I saw that the industry was having a lot of problems, especially 2003 when advertisement revenue took a huge drop. Okay. And so I thought, okay, I'm going to have to diversify now, start thinking about video. But it wasn't until really during the Iraq War, when I was already freelance now, left the newspapers, I thought that my content was transient in paper. Yeah. Somebody said, create a video, put it on YouTube, and you'll get some views. And in 2005, YouTube was born, and I did just that. And I never looked back in many ways. Immediately I saw how the conversation could get very hate-filled, right. But I could also see the support and the eagerness to share what people felt was good quality content. Right. And I thought,
trolls have been with us since the beginning.
Yeah, you only have to look at 4chan and way back. Then never, I don't think, going to go away. And the more we tried to sterilize it, I took great comfort in building a social network which there was a reciprocation of value there, whereas you give in as much as you get out, and if something happened in the comments, your network dips in and backs you up. Yeah. And I found that happen quite a lot.
Interesting. Okay, cool. So sorry, I interrupted your journey to the present, if you will. Where do we leave off?
So I was a newspaper photographer, and I diversified into multimedia, and I started to see how maybe I can just publish my photos online. And I started putting them on Flickr free of charge, and it was like, what are you doing? I've put Creative Commons in the comments before it was a thing. Yeah. And photographers are like, you can't give your photos away. And I saw my photos as a business card in a way. And then a lot of people would steal the photos. Yeah. When something like Tin Eye came out and you could reverse image search before Google image search, and then invoice people for theft. Right. I saw that as an interesting business model when it was the Daily Mail and other such tabloids that shan't be named, thinking, oh, it's on the internet, it must be free. Yeah. And that continued on to kind of a tipping point for me, which was realizing that my bad back could be alleviated by focusing on what the mobile phone could do for me. And that really was an eye-opener when, for example, moments like 2008, I come out of Euston Station and there's Tony Benn sitting there having a pipe, sat on a chair. I take out my Nokia N95 and start live streaming, and he's okay with it, and he totally gets it.
Wow.
And before you know it, The Guardian's retweeting it, and all these journalists are asking me questions through my phone. So I don't even have to be smart now. I can just ask journalistically driven questions and make it look like I'm smart.
Wow. Okay, that's fantastic. So in some ways, I guess you're at the beginning of a lot of these trends, really.
There's a large group of us, and there's going to be many, obviously, in the Thinking Digital crowd who were there for the really exciting times when, look, I can stream from a tree, look, I'm in the bath, look, I'm in the shower. The first time people were doing that, and you're just thinking, this is quite a formidable computer. And we got quite tech utopian about it all.
Sure.
We got kind of, look at the power of the network. The network can do anything for you. But in the back of our minds, I do think we were aware that there was a trade-off.
Yeah.
We're putting ourselves out there, and we started to use our real names, but we thought it's worth it because there's another level of authenticity now. We're face-to-face video chatting with people.
Interesting. So, I mean, one of the things we talked about is that when we started working again in 2010, we were still very much in the midst of that tech utopia, if you will, right? Where obviously the iPhone was now established, the iPad had just recently been launched, we had all these new free social tools that were out there. I remember Gowalla, among many others that have lived and died. And, and obviously more recently, the tone has clearly changed, not just in technology, but the whole world's seeing. I think there's a lot more uncertainty. There's obviously 2016, some shocking political events happened along the way. Where do you see it going? Do you have any sense of, are you hopeful about the next 10 years?
I'm definitely more of a realist. If I think about how my job has evolved, and in some instances I'm now advising people like the United Nations on how to protect their sources, from personal experience of working in places like Syria and doing a check-in on social web and having a tap on my shoulder saying, can you not do that? The reason why we've just moved this field hospital was because half of the people were killed due to an airstrike after somebody checked in on Facebook.
Wow.
I wasn't using Facebook at the time, I was using Twitter, and I was using a direct message, but it immediately occurred to me that any back doors available for any government in the West, that technology is available to any government full stop, or any hacker. And it was my responsibility to protect those people around me and not kill them with my stupidity. And I started looking a lot closer at more encrypted channels, end-to-end encryption, ideally maybe hosted in Switzerland and not certain countries, so that we could at least have the illusion, because I don't think anything is private on the internet, but the illusion that we have that private space so that we can share sensitive information, so that we can feel we can have a conversation without 1,000 eyes peering into what we're saying. And I think humans need that.
Interesting. Well, I guess the most recently you've got me onto Wire, I guess, which is
I'm not affiliated with the company, and yet I just seem to be banging on about the fact that being open source and having the code verified and being a really nice interface and not being owned by Facebook, for me was a kind of a selling point. And yet I'm finding that weird return to the feeling of 2008 by ever increasing large groups in the back channels.
Yes.
Where, do you remember when you were only connected to maybe 30 people on Twitter?
Yeah.
You can have that again, but on an end-to-end encrypted channel where you can do this on a number of places, Signal and other places. But you've got video, you've got audio, you've got photos, you've got location sharing, and nobody's data mining it. That's kind of comforting in a way.
Cool, yeah, no, definitely. So I guess for me, I go through waves of both fascination and then burnout with regard to technology. You seem to have a seemingly unending curiosity about these tools, which is part of the reason that you've been on the leading edge of a lot of these trends. Is just simply you seem to just naturally seek it out and then tinker with it.
Definitely curious and continued curious. I thought you were going to say seemingly unending energy. Definitely go through burnout regularly. We haven't even started and I'm losing my voice, thanks to last night. And yet, I think that if you're not interested and fascinated in the world around you, you're missing 1,000 wonderful things every day, and that definitely keeps me going. And I've managed to very luckily hone my job into focusing and experimenting in projects that keep me enthused. And then once a year we have that datum reset where we come to thinking digital, and we remember what curiosity is all about, what being excited and enthused, because you haven't lost that. Yeah, there's always a touching base. Remember, everybody, the internet can be dangerous. But 90% of the time, it's people doing incredible things with mind-blowing technology, which is actually within reach of all of us. And some people quit their jobs after coming here and say, I've got to have a piece of this. I really like that.
That's fantastic. Well, listen, genuinely could go on for hours, but I'm going to let you guys. I know you got to prepare for your upcoming workshop.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us here.
Thank you so much, and thanks for thinking digital.
Yeah, cheers, man.
Cheers.
Thank you. Thanks, folks. That was Christian Payne, aka Documentally, and we'll see you again soon. Thanks.